everyone. My name is Elia.
And I'm Andrea.
This is Labyrinth of the Bizarre, a podcast where we discuss, review, and analyze speculative fiction such as horror, apocalyptic, dark fantasy, and other subgenres.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about The Haunting of Hill House and an examination of individual trauma and grief in families.
This is not a spoiler-free episode, so if you do not want to be spoiled for The Haunting of Hill House, please stop now and watch after you've
From now
watched
on,
Hill
people
House.
Listening should just assume we're going to spoil everything.
Yeah.
Just
Definitely.
know.
Content warnings for the show are the following. On-screen suicide for episode 5, drug abuse and overdoses, sleep paralysis, body horror, and death and dead bodies in general.
There's also child abuse and the loss of a parent and the loss of a child.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, there's also a poisoning.
Oh, yes, a poisoning scene, yes.
I'm sure there's other
Yeah.
content warnings, but I can't think of anything.
Well, there's some dead animals,
I feel like it's because...
but it's not really, like, graphic. The dead kitties.
Oh, no, that's definitely what I was thinking of when I was saying body horror.
Oh,
though.
okay.
So, since this is not a review, but an analysis of some themes in the show, we will not be rating the characters, plot, pacing, visuals, etc. But we will talk about what we really liked in the show. So, Andrea, what are some of your highlights for Hill House?
Everything. This is one of my favorite shows, but I love that it's like a gothic horror type thing, because gothic horror is one of my favorite genres. I love that it's analysis of family and how there's shared experiences in trauma. I love the actors. I love the babies. I love everything. I don't know if that's what you wanted me to say, but yeah.
I mean, like, did you, because I put down really specific stuff, so,
well,
did you want to talk about anything specific?
The specific stuff I'm going to talk about is in the analysis, so I don't want to go too deep into that.
Okay, that's great, because my highlights are definitely not that.
Okay, that's good. Let's go with your highlights.
So I get, my highlights are all technical. So, like, when you sent me the, show notes, the questions for this episode, for this podcast episode, I did not take any notes on like the mechanics and technical shit for Hill House. And then after watching Hill House, you brought it up, like talking about that on this episode, and I was like, oh my fucking god, Rhea, I did not take any notes for that. So I'm kind of just like, okay. Anyways. Okay, so there are like 4 things I like and appreciated the most from Hill House, and I tried so very hard to condense my notes, and I apologize if I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No worries.
You're really quiet. It's making
I'm
me
listening.
nervous.
I don't know what you're gonna say.
I don't know. It's making me nervous.
I am judging.
Okay,
Continue.
Oh god. Blech. It makes me feel anxious. Don't say that. Okay,
Speak now.
Right, 4 things. So things I liked was the use of Chekhov's gun, the bent neck lady scene, the long takes, and the editing and writing transitions between past and present. So Chekhov's gun is a writing principle that states that everything has to be relevant to the plot, and anything irrelevant should be removed. And I think Hill House vaguely follows that. I just couldn't think of another way to describe that, so I'm just going to say it's Chekhov's gun. And I say that it is because everything in this show is connected. Like, for example, Shirley's first encounter with death is how that shaped her perception of death, which we can evidently see in her scenes as an adult. Showing the treehouse, the dance room, the game room was all relevant to the ending when they revealed that that was all the red room. So seemingly irrelevant scenes and conversations are actually used again in the story, or are used to showcase the character's development. And I like how they used, like, fillers. Like, it feels like fillers, but they're actually not fillers because they're actually relevant to the show. So, like, there's no fillers in the show, and I hate fillers, so I really liked what the show was doing with that.
You're having a big brain moment.
Oh my god.
Go ahead, continue.
So the last minute or two in episode 5 is the big revelation on the bent neck lady. That was literally one of the best horror scenes I have ever watched. It is top tier. It is my main takeaway from this show. And I just really love it. Because there's so much emotion packed into that big revelation as well. So it's not only just like horror, it's also just very emotional. Did you want to say something?
Yes. It's one of my favorite things. This is why I love anything that's like gothic horror, because I do love spooks. I love getting scared. Like, I try so hard to get scared by things, but a lot of things don't scare me anymore. I'm desensitized. So I need that emotional impact to get scared. And that's what the show does. Like, just having a random ghost haunting this little girl would have been scary. But having it be like herself, her like dying self being something that haunts her throughout her entire life, and it's revealed in such a dramatic way where it's just like, we're seeing Nell die, but we're also seeing her see herself die throughout her entire life. Oh
yeah,
my
like
God.
I literally
Fucking
cannot
chills.
think of any movie that has that sort of like, I don't know, just it's just such a good scene. I can't think of any movie or any like horror content that has like shocked me as much as that scene.
And that's why I don't think movies, just because of the time constraints they have, can achieve that. Because one of the key aspects of gothic horror is that they have to show you a time that was good before it all went downhill. And the show is able to do that with those sweet moments with the wedding, when they were children. Like, everything was, they had good times. And then you juxtapose that with the horrible scenes of Nell's entire life where she's haunted, her very last breathing moment.
I love
it's
it.
just 10 out of 10. 10 out of fucking 10.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna talk for a really long time again. So there's this one really good long shot in episode 6, the night before Nellie's funeral. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And it's just 20 minutes of them talking.
I love that scene so much.
Yeah, and the camera never stops rolling, or, you know, it's edited with invisible cuts, so you can't, so it just looks like one long shot. So, I mean, not only is it just really fucking cool to look at, first of all, it also works perfectly with the scene because it shows how this conversation is alive and flowing. And they frame the camera so that it focuses on one or two characters, but you can also see other characters reacting in the background. There's one part with Steven and Shirley and Theo and Kevin fighting, and the camera moves in circles around them. And the thing about filming that separates it from other medias is that you always have to be aware of where the camera is, and they structure the conversation so that certain lines are told when certain characters are in the front of the frame. So like Theo and Shirley are arguing in the front of the frame, and then the camera circles, and now Steven and Kevin are in the front, so then they say something instead. And then there's a part where the pin drops and Shirley finds out that Kevin accepted the blood money, and the camera stops moving. And you can like feel the pause and everyone holding their breath because the conversation was alive and moving, and now it has stopped. And it was just like, it was such like a little detailed used to strengthen the storytelling and the emotion in that room. And I just thought it was fucking fantastic. I just really appreciate the art behind all of this. And there were some other ways that they used camera techniques to support emotions and the tone of the show, but I have just picked that one because that was like the best one in the whole series.
Kudos to them, because it's not just like the cameraman and the director, like the actors have to like memorize where to be at the right time. The crew has to move things around. I was watching a video of them making it.
Oh, really?
Oh my God.
I have not seen that.
They're big brain,
I love movies and shows that are shot like that.
In that scene, there's like two different weather things and the lighting from the past to the present. So they have to be changing the lighting as they move the camera, and it's so fucking like, how did you big brain that? I wouldn't have thought of I'm saying big brain a lot. This is just who I am now. But how would you have achieved that so fucking well?
It's a lot of timing and a lot of practice. The thing with that kind of filming too is there's so much stress of like, because you can't waste too much time and materials on doing the shot over and over again, so you really have to perfect it when you do film it. God, that's just so stressful. One more thing. I promise I'll shut up after this.
No, don't apologize for that. I love hearing about Hill House.
Yeah, but this is like not. Anyways, Hill House has seamless transitions between the past and present. And I'm not talking about like the visual transitions, like there's a scene where someone turns off a light and the next scene is someone turning on a light, and there's another one where someone walks through a door and the next scene is someone else walking out a door. But I'm not talking about that, although I do like that. I'm talking about the story structure. Like for one of the earlier episodes, I actually went back and looked at the timestamps, and it went back and forth between the past and present every 2 to 3 minutes. Like,
Oh,
and
wow.
despite the constant back and forth, it doesn't feel disconnected or disorienting, which I think is really difficult for. I don't think a lot of medias have done that successfully. So I just want to shout out, give them kudos for doing that. What's really important about like flashbacks is that they have to be there for a reason. The flashback has to make sense to what's happening right now, and it has to be relevant to the overall plot. And the tone from past to present needs to flow together, and I just think Hill House did a really good job doing that.
It's also interesting because the show doesn't technically go in chronological order in the events, because it does go from past to present, but even in the events that occur in the present, we see things that happen in the first episode that won't happen until like episode 6 again, and then we focus on each individual character for certain episodes. So there's a lot of jumping back and forth, but still the narrative and the theme continues on so smoothly throughout the episodes. Ugh.
Exactly.
Mike Flanagan, you're mine.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really good script. That's really good script writing. I don't know if that's like, if that was copy pasted from the book, or if they also had to tweak it to fit the show.
Definitely very different. The book's writing is wonderful, by the way. Everybody should read that book once in their life. But it's very different. It kind of keeps similar themes, but they make it more familial and consumable for a television and stuff like that. And I think it's really neat. Both of them are good in their own ways.
Yeah. I respect that. Okay, I'm done talking about technical shit.
Let's get into the 5 stages of grief.
Oh boy.
Let's go. Okay.
I
should mention.
Go ahead.
Oh.
I'm just gonna flat out say right now that the notes for the rest of this episode is basically non-existent. Because when you sent me the episode guidelines, Rhea, I could not think of anything. Like, I spent so long staring at the document, and I could not think of anything. And so I guess like this is gonna be your episode, dude.
But it's okay. It's gonna be interesting what you have to say about the thoughts I have.
Yeah.
And
just me reacting. Fine. I'll just be reacting with the audience. Learning
You're the
experience
live
together.
Studio audience. Okay. So basically, I should mention, I was not the first, nor am I the last one to find out about the 5 stages of grief. It's just something that I noticed one day when talking to Elia, and then we made a game out of it for a bit, and I was playing it to the Twilight characters, to everybody. But I really like identifying when there's a group of 5 characters. I like applying the 5 stages of grief, even if it's not accurate. I like applying it. I was pleasantly pleased to find out that this theory that a lot of fans have noticed was proven correct by the writer. So this is actually something that was intended, and everything about these characters are supposed to represent these 5 stages of grief. And it's even noticeable because these 5 siblings, the 5 stages of grief goes in chronological order between them. So like Stephen is denial, Shirley's anger, Theo's bargaining, Luke is depression, and Nell is acceptance. So we're going to talk about Stephen, the baby boy first.
I did not notice that.
Oh no? Okay.
Okay, go ahead. No, I didn't notice that.
We're going to talk about Stephen, the baby boy, the light of my life. All of these characters are the light of my life, but yes, I love Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Stephen, and first scene we get with Stephen is Nell's crying in the middle of the night when they're younger in the Hill House, and Stephen goes to check in on her, and she's crying because she just saw the bent neck lady, and he tries to comfort her and tells her that it's all a dream. And then in that scene, their father arrives and starts talking about how for little kids, dreams spill over into reality. And he says something like a quote along the lines of, dreams spill over like an ocean into real life. But in that scene, we see Stephen in the background mouthing those words. And I think that's very important to understand that he has internalized this little story that his father tells him about how there's explanations for everything. He's grown up knowing that there should be an explanation for everything, and supernatural is just dreams spilling over. And then we find out that he denies all the paranormal occurrences that happened to his family, rather preferring to believe that it was mental illnesses that are found genetically because of his mother than believing his younger siblings, because he didn't get to see any ghosts when he was younger. So that's the first way we see him denying these paranormal occurrences. And he's just outright denying all of this until like almost the last episodes, where he sees the man with that little hat approaching him and his father. Yeah. And it's so funny. What are those hats called?
Bowler hats?
I was gonna say the hat from Meet the Robinsons.
Oh my god.
But bowler hats. Yes, bowler hats.
It's the same hat that Glasses guy wears, right? Luke. Glasses guy.
Yes, yeah. White glasses guy.
I'm so sorry. No.
Out of everything you could have picked to describe him,
The
glasses
hot
guy.
one. Oh god. Continue.
Okay, but yes, he prefers to see it as mental illness, and you see how this creates problems in his life with his wife because he, what is it called? He doesn't castrate himself.
What?
He can't have babies.
Oh,
he did
procedure. The vasectomy.
Vasectomy.
Yeah.
I think.
Is it the one for the...
I have no idea.
Oh,
but he does the procedure where he can't have children without telling his wife because he rather believe that his blood is tainted than understand that there was something supernatural occurring to him and his family. And that was just his own way processing grief. And we could even see it in his career choice. He writes his own life story as paranormal fiction. It allows him to place everything that happened to him in the neat container of fiction rather than saying this is something that actually happened to me and my family. It makes it consumable for other people to read and understand that, oh, it was just fake. That didn't actually happen to us. Everything's all right. Everything is like setting up for somebody who wants to deny, who needs to deny these things in order to continue functioning as a human outside of Hill House. So yes, those are my thoughts on Steven. Got anything?
I don't like him. That's all I have to say.
You don't like him?
I swear, every time, dude, you forget this every time.
I think I erased it because this is incredibly... No. Why don't you like him?
It's just, I don't know. There's something about
I thought
him.
you liked all big sibling characters.
No, what the fuck are you talking about? No.
This is what I understand from your conversations with your siblings.
No. They, no. What? No. They don't like oldest sibling, correction. And I am defending the title oldest siblings because just because you're the oldest doesn't mean you suck. There are good older siblings characters and there are
like Steven.
Ones. Yeah, okay, but I don't like him. I don't care about how old he is. I just don't like him.
Okay. Can you elaborate?
I can't believe you thought. Oh my god, my siblings are so fucking annoying. Okay. Can I elaborate?
Wait, I still don't understand. Yes, elaborate. I don't understand.
I don't know. He's just, I don't know. I just don't like him. He's really attractive though. I'll say that.
But he is. He definitely is.
I don't have actual reasons to dislike him. I just don't.
Once I watched Hill House, I had to watch this movie he was in, like something like the Potato Guernsey Literary Society or something like that.
Potatoes?
He's in it, and I had something like that. It's with Lily James. I had to watch it because of him.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So you have no reason to not like him. You just don't like him.
Dude. Yeah. I just don't like him. I'm sorry.
You know what? Okay,
there's
criticisms about Steven saying that he's mean or like he doesn't believe his siblings' trauma, but people have to realize he's dealing with his own trauma. Yeah. Like they're all traumatized by losing their mother in such a strange way. Their father has never explained anything to them. They're living their life under scrutiny of other people who are obsessed with supernatural things, and they're like, oh, the only way I'm gonna get out of this is denying that it actually happened. Maybe I'll make a career out of it, but I'm not. The only way I could process it is if I say it didn't happen, and if I tell all my siblings that it didn't happen.
Yeah. No, yeah. I definitely don't fault him for that, for his trauma. I just don't like him.
Okay.
There's just no explanation.
We're moving on, because this is getting me very...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Okay, let's go. Shirley. Okay, this one's the only one that I could say I don't like her very much. I like her the least out of all the siblings. Anywho, she represents anger. From like the first scene, no, not the first scene. I don't think her first scene was actually mean. Her first scene was with her comforting a child who didn't want to see his grandma's body being, but whatever. But in the entirety of this series, there's like a scene for each sibling that has Shirley yelling at them. And usually the reasons why she's yelling at them is because of how they deal with their own trauma, because she doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand that they're dealing with it their own way. So like for Steven, she got mad that he wrote the book and the blood money was taken, and she's angry at him for that. Like every single time they talk, she brings it up. She can't let it go. For Theo, her anger was with, she calls Theo a lesbian fuckboy, and she constantly is saying like, you need to grow up, like you can't be living in my house. But that's like Theo's own thing that I'll talk about when we get to her. Luke is for his addiction. Like, she's constantly mad. She was supportive at the beginning, but then by the end, she's like, go buy your drugs. Here, have $100. Like, I'm tired of you. And then for Nell, she, like, gets really mad that Nell kills herself, like, in a very, very angry way. And then she's mad at her father. Like, she's mad at the whole world. She can't process her emotions. Instead she just blows up in anger constantly. And I was doing a speed watch of Hill House like 2 hours ago, and I was just fast forwarding the first episode. And the first episode, I noticed that she had a line that says, "That's why everyone dumps their shit on me. I'm the oldest. That's my job. Oh wait, that's you." And this is her talking to Steven. She's taking the place kind of like of their mother, and she gets mad that she can't actually control them, and she feels like angry that she has had to be the one who deals with her siblings' emotions. She's had to like fix them, quote unquote, because that's why she actually started being a funeral home person. She likes fixing people, and when Nell dies, she says, "I owe her this, I'll fix her." So I feel like she's taken so much on her back about trying to fix her sibling that is just coming out in anger, where she can't control her emotions. She's constantly yelling at people. She's constantly yelling at her father. In that, is it episode 6 where they do the one long take, or was that 5?
Yeah, episode 6.
She's practically yelling the entire time. There's not a scene where she's not yelling. For her, that must be one of the hardest stages of grief to represent, because how can you survive when all you want to be is sad for a moment, but it comes out as anger?
It's so funny, dude, because I literally have like one bullet point for Shirley for a discussion later, and you already said it.
What was it?
Yeah, my bullet point was that Shirley's obsessed with fixing people and keeping things the way things are. Yeah, she does not like change. And also another example is that she had the Forever House model, which was like, I think the Forever House is sort of different. Like the meaning of the Forever House is different from the mom for Shirley, you know? She just like, she thinks of the Forever House as some sort of like preservation of like happy memories. And yeah.
Okay. We're going to my girl Theo, who's gonna get her fucking PhD. Bargaining. This one, when I first applied the 5 stages of grief, I was having a hard time because I really didn't understand bargaining. I just know the stages of grief and what they basically mean. But I had to do like a little more research on this one because I was having a fucking hard time applying this. But when I was rewatching it last week, I found this one scene where it was when she became numb after she touched Nell, and she was like basically begging when she was talking to Cheryl after she tried to kiss Cheryl's husband. She was begging for the universe to free her from the feeling of numbness, that she would do anything, including kiss her sister's husband. And like, this was just her attempt to bargain her way back to normalcy. She was trying to deal with all of this by begging the universe to let her feel again. And for her arc, I think what she mainly had to realize is that these bargaining moments, she can't control them, and she has to take a risk. And for her, living with her sister, even though she has a job, a nice job, she has her doctor, she's getting clients, she's okay, but she's still living with her sister because she's afraid of taking that step outside of her family or outside of becoming more of an adult. And for her, I also wanted to connect it to her career like Steven, because she's a child psychologist, and I think there's a layer of her attempting to make up for her own childhood and attempt to like bargain with the universe to say like, if I help these children and help them cope with these things that they're going through, I will be proving to others that what happened to me and my sibling was trauma that was undealt with, and it manifested itself through ghosts. She was trying to like cope with her own shit by helping other children. And there's even one scene where she's talking to that girl who was being assaulted by her foster father, and she was saying that like, me and you, we're great builders. So like, they're able to build these worlds, separating themselves from society, rather staying safe than rather risking it all to have a normal life. And she'd rather bargain her own happiness to stay in these walls than step out. Even though she's trying to help the child step out, she stays in her own wall. And
she wants to keep a distance from intimacy with other people.
And I think she's neat.
Dude, I think we're sharing the same brain right now, because that was also my bullet point for Theo. And you stole it from me again. Yeah.
Big moment.
Yeah. That wow. I mean, I was going to say also with her job. I mean, like, in general, people who go in that type of field, social sciences, they kind of go into it because they have their own bad experiences, and they want the next generations to have some sort of support because they had to grow up without that support. And I think I think having the job of a child therapist says a lot about her experience with Hill House and her mother's death, and probably off-screen experiences as well. So yeah, basically everything that you just said.
Wow. So now we're getting to the two sad ones. Luke, and he's depression. And although Luke's main focus and talking point for a lot of people is trials with addiction, I think the twin thing introduces a very important thing where when Luke discovers that Nell is dead, he suddenly like starts to feel dead too. Her death hits him the hardest, and I forgot to write the quote down, but he tells Nell at the end that he doesn't know how to live without her or how to do it without her. And it's that dependency on somebody else to be the source of your happiness that made his depression or his position as depression more clear to me. And I also think the figure that haunts him is really interesting when you look at it through the lens of depression, because I know for a lot of people depression manifests itself as like just a lingering sadness, just like right out of the corner of your vision, but you feel it's there. It's just constantly plaguing your life. And I think that's with the bowler hat, the floating man with the bowler hat, that's how it is for him, because he's always behind him. And that's literally why he has had to resort to drugs, because that's the only time he disappears. Like the man with the bowler hat, like yes, we do see his face eventually, but that's only with Steven when he gets a real close up to Steven. The rest of the time is just his outline, the sound of his cane approaching Luke. But for me, thinking about it through 5 stages of grief, it just sounds like it was a personification of Luke's depression and how it began to manifest itself early in childhood until it just was uncontrollable because he didn't have the support he needed as a child. Also, there's this one scene where little Luke and little Steven are talking to each other and they're being cute and they're just making a sign that says like no girls allowed, and it's immediately the scene after is them older when Luke is literally stealing from Steve, and it breaks my heart every time because like they were so precious, and all of a sudden we see that like life has done so many terrible things, and it was all because they didn't have the support, the help they needed to deal with their grief. And Nell's acceptance, and that's basically more clear than all of them, all the rest of the siblings, I think, because one of her famous quotes is, "I loved you completely and you loved me the same. That's all. The rest is all confetti." And it's just the acceptance of everything that happened to her and her family was just background to their love for each other. Even if they were separated by things, like for her, the important thing was that they loved each other. Everything else was just, she accepts it, all their fate. And oh my gosh, I get chills when I think about her because she is the first one to accept what happened instead of trying to deny what happens. And she's the first one to confront it, even though it's a tragic way to confront it by returning to Hill House and accept that they were being haunted literally by a home that was trying to portray itself as their mother, and she let the home have her, and because there was no way she could have lived without giving herself into the house, because without giving herself in, she would have never realized that her ghost was just her that was haunting her, the bent neck lady. Her seeing her own death and vice versa, we're seeing her seeing that it was only just her haunting herself. And it's just a weird thing to think about. But it's like, I hate to say it because I want happiness for these siblings and I want them to be alive and together. But for Nell, it obviously was the only way to be freed, because or else she was just going to continue to be haunted by this bent neck lady until it happened. And it was in the acceptance that of everything that occurred to her family and the grief and the loss of a mother and having be separated from their father and not having that support system. She only had to find out about it until she killed herself, which is the way she saw that she was just haunting herself.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the bent neck lady scene.
That's a wonderful, beautiful scene.
Oh my god. It's just so good. I can't stop thinking about it. It's so good.
So amazing.
Yeah, you have a lot of knowledge. What? I'm sorry, I can't contribute. I'm sorry, I can't contribute to this conversation.
No, but you had the same thoughts as me.
Absolutely right. Yeah, the thing is that I'm not connecting it back to the stages of grief. I'm not seeing it. I'm not viewing my points in the bigger picture. But I couldn't think of anything for Nell. I was just so hung up on the fact that, you know, like the thing that haunts her entire life is herself, and I'm like, that is a metaphor for something. Yeah. I just can't think of it right now.
For grief.
Right. I know. I'm just saying that I couldn't think of it right now. Oh my god.
grief, there's nothing really that's haunting you except that feeling that you lost something and you don't know how to deal with it. And usually it's just yourself not knowing how to deal with those emotions. And that's what Nella is. Like, she couldn't escape it until she began haunting herself until her fucking death. Mm-hmm. Ugh, makes me so sad. I love this show so much.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you had a lot of really good points. You pointed, like, I noticed some of these things, but you kind of connected the dots for me.
I'm just thinking this is how you felt in the last episode when I said that, oh, I wasn't listening.
Okay, but the difference is, Andrea, I actually am listening. It's just I am learning from you. And I don't have anything to contribute. That's the difference. I'm not spacing out and ignoring you.
Anywho, stand the Crane siblings. Anywho, this is my favorite TV show. I rewatch it constantly. Yeah, many thoughts. I mean,
I at least I didn't mention that I don't like Luke in the episode, so. Did you forget to?
What? What the
Oh my god. Rhea, I've said this so many times already. I don't know how you forget this.
Don't even. I don't think I'm supposed to be having this episode with you. I think somebody else should be.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I could have just called in sick and, I don't know, someone else can take my spot.
Yes. Who could have
Or you could just record this on your own, you know?
That's not you.
No, yeah.
This is so insulting.
Okay,
Anywho, I'm erasing that again.
I have one thing. I have a single bullet point to say about familial relationships.
Yeah, let's go.
I really liked how these traumatized characters interacted with people, especially children, based on their personal trauma, because it showcases how those experiences have continued to influence their behavior as an adult. Again, the references that I'm going to mention, because like those are the ones that stood out to me the most, are Theo and Shirley. Shirley, when she talks to her own children about Nell's body, because again, I mentioned earlier how Shirley has a specific perspective on death and preserving memories of people. And then also Theo, when she interacts with children as a child therapist, and you can just like see how that trauma has influenced them. And yeah, that's what I had to say. Hello?
No, I'm thinking.
Okay, I just can't tell.
See if the other characters interacted with children, and I don't think they did.
Well, Steve doesn't like kids at all.
Oh yeah. That's denial. Definitely.
That's denial, yeah. But Luke and Nellie don't have interactions with children.
It's interesting to have a family where they underwent not the same trauma, but they were all there when it all was happening, and they experienced the things together of what they call, quote unquote, that night. Mm-hmm. And how they've all are dealing with it in their own way. And that comes back to grief, the 5 stages, how they're all different. But like, it's really fascinating. And then once you add the dad into the mix, somebody who can make it clear to them what happened, but chooses not to tell them out of protection, that he feels like he's protecting them, which must be a really difficult position to be in, because he knows everything. But if he tells his children he doesn't know what power that's going to give the house, or what his kids want to do with the house, and just a bunch of complicated things. And maybe they're going to think he's crazy, but it's like how an individual can have so much power to fix or help his children, but he chose not to, and how it just creates this cycle of trauma, because Steve was going to head down the same path just to avoid it all, and he like stopped being the oldest sibling. He just chose to leave his siblings behind, and it's not that he owes them anything, but he's the oldest sibling, so it's like I feel like his younger siblings were expecting a lot of him, and he was just like, no, I'm just going to write my blood money book and go. And yeah, these dynamics between this family is just so amazing.
Yeah, that's
because we do see Steven at the beginning being a very like big brother type figure to all of them.
Oh, he's a suck up.
Especially Luke.
He's a suck up.
What?
Like, you know, as all older siblings are. Desperate for parental approval. As an older sibling, I'm allowed to say that.
I can't. I'm the youngest, but basically, yeah. He's like, all those scenes with Luke, I mentioned them before, it's really cute. And then we go to the present, and we see how all Steven wants is for Luke to leave. And he's like, okay, I'll give you my camera, but just give me back the iPad, and I'll give you some extra money, and then you could go. And then Luke just goes. I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah, he did not.
So much
he could have done
changed.
A lot more than, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I understand that this has been something they've been dealing with for years, but it's just like, you see how
how
this
drastic
trauma affected the relationships.
Yeah, you see how drastic the changes have been over the course of time. And it's just really sad to see.
And we see a dad. Okay, the dad makes me really emotional. I know he has his problems, but in the show, throughout every single moment of something happening, the dad is always there ready with something to say that's just extremely comforting. And I'm like, these children went from having such a supportive dad to suddenly have him taken away and having to live with their aunt is when they're going through the biggest trauma of their life. And it's just like, wow. And now you see them as adults and how they treat him. They're like, you disappeared basically from our lives. Like, we don't have to owe you anything anymore. It's just so sad. Familial relationships and their dynamics and how they evolve through trauma is so interesting to me. And I just want to mention a few things about Gothic horror because I love Gothic horror before we go. Okay, so one of my all-time favorite things in horror, whether it be film, books, whatever, is the use of the sublime. It's one of the reasons I adore Black Swan, and it's the reason why Hill House is my favorite. And basically the sublime is showing us something utterly terrifying, but at the same time it's beautiful, and this like juxtaposition of horrifying and beautiful in one single thing is amazing to me. But for Hill House, the sublime is that we see this figure, the house is haunting them and it's just torturing them throughout their life and traumatizing them, and then the house takes in their mother, takes something so comforting to them, something so familiar, and it's so they lost their mother, and now their mother is the one who's haunting them, and it's the grief they face and the longing they face as every time they see their mom. Like with Nell, when she returns to the house, she feels at home, she feels safe. But when it cuts back to what she's actually in, like how the house is decaying and dying, it's like beautiful and horror are just next to each other, and she is choosing to look at the beautiful right now because it's comforting. To be haunted by something that wishes for their death, to have the face of their mother is just so beautiful to me.
It's so beautiful when their mother wants to kill them.
Yes, wants to kill them. And until the end, she still does, even though she's like, oh yes, I'll just take Nell and the dad. You guys could leave. But then she's like staring at them with murder eyes, like, I want to eat you. And that's just something I think Gothic horror does a lot. And I just think it's neat.
It's so funny because you cut off again. And I was just like singing, Rhea, you can't hear me. And then literally and then you came back and I was like, oh no, I hope you didn't hear me sing to you.
I did not, or else I would have stopped talking and laughed. Also, did you notice that they had that little Game of Thrones thing in the show where they're looking at the cats and they're like, there's 5 of them, like there's 5 of us.
Oh my fucking god. Of course you connected that to Game of Thrones. I didn't. I just think I think it's just a trope, though.
I know, but I correlated to Game of Thrones only now.
God.
It's only Game of Thrones.
Oh my god.
And then Ned Stark finds the white one. It's like, look, Jon, it's you.
I'm not a fan of Gothic horror, so
yes, you are.
I don't think I'm a fan of Gothic horror, Andrea.
Yes, you are.
I
Do
don't
you like
think
Black
I am.
Swan?
Yeah, but
That's Gothic horror.
Okay.
Do you like Hill House?
No. I mean, yeah, but like not like as much as you.
Okay, but you like it.
I mean, sure, yeah. I like the emotion in it. And I know that's like one of the key factors of Gothic horror, but like in terms of like, I don't know, I don't find Hill House scary. And I know that's not like the goal of Gothic horror, but it just, I don't know, it's either I don't like Gothic horror or I'm just really desensitized to horror at this point and I just don't find anything scary at all. And I don't know.
That's so funny. The reason I like Gothic horror, like I mentioned before in the beginning, is because I've become desensitized to certain things.
Yeah.
And so I need the emotional backing to make me feel things.
Yeah, like when you talk about body horror in Hill House, the only thing that comes to mind is like Nellie, like the bent neck lady, and just how she looks visually, and then also the dead kittens. But everything, but like I mean, like even like those were like the 2 most disturbing things in my opinion. But like even then, I do not feel that disturbed by those scenes.
Yeah. No, I didn't find them super disturbing either.
Yeah.
But there was that one.
But like people are disturbed by that, and I think I'm just really desensitized by horror.
They're normies.
Ew. No, stop. Say it in a more nasally voice. Say it again.
No, I can't.
They're normies.
Yeah.
They're not like us. They're normies.
Oh my gosh.
We're real horror stans.
We're different. We're weirdos.
Ew. Okay, so personal enjoyment. Would you like me to go first? Because
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry to break your heart, Andrea. I'm sorry to break your heart so much right now. I think Hill House is enjoyable, but I consider this bubblegum, like a bubblegum TV show. It's
What does
just
that fucking mean?
it's just one of those things where you binge it in 2 days and you have fun and that's it. And I just mean that in a way that it didn't leave a very long-lasting impact on me, except for the Bentnick lady scene. And I'm sorry, Andrea, because I've kept this from you. I can feel you glaring at me.
I'm glad you can't see my face right now.
Like I can feel it. I can feel it. Okay, but listen, although I don't appreciate the show as much, I appreciate a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Like, I think, the structure of the story, the script writing is fucking phenomenal. The lack of bullshit fillers is, like, it adds to the story a lot. And, being able to fit this in 10 episodes, I think that's great. I feel like this could very easily be, like, a 25 episode season. But they decided not to do that, and they just kept it at 10 episodes, and they went straight to the point and made it very emotional. And I will also say that haunted house horrors are very common, especially now. And a lot of haunted house horrors are just bubblegum films and forgettable, but this is definitely the best one I have seen for the category. So in terms of haunted house horror, it is at the very top. So although I think it's bubblegum, I do think it is the best in the genre.
Anywho, listeners, you're going to ignore everything that's just been said and listen to me only, because I'm the only one with valid opinions upon the show.
Oh my god.
Everything else Elia just said, you can ignore it.
Andrea.
You can ignore it.
Andrea.
Anywho, I am speaking.
Andrea.
What?
You literally said a few days ago, oh, I think it's a good thing that we have different opinions because their audience will have different opinions to listen to. I didn't think it was
drastic. But anywho, as I was saying, listeners.
Okay, sure.
Elia's wrong. I am right. We're going to talk about my personal enjoyment and my valid opinions.
Oh my
this
God.
show is one you can rewatch multiple times, because the first time you watch it, you're kind of scared. You don't know what you're going into it. There are moments, I feel like, for people who don't watch a lot of horror that will be very scary. And I watched the show with different people who are not horror people, and they get scared every time I mention the show because they are traumatized. Anywho, I like rewatching the show because every time I watch it, there's something different, some genius I find out. And even the one I just sped watch it, because I sped watched it this morning, I found a lot of new things. And I found out Mike Flanagan likes to reference Hamlet a lot. He quotes it in Hill House, he quotes it in Bly Manor, and I think me and him are shaking hands because I will also quote Hamlet in all my works. Me, him, same brain. Yes, you will enjoy this very much.
I think it's enjoyable, Andrea. I think it's enjoyable. That was the first thing I said. It's enjoyable.
But you said no.
I said it's enjoyable, but it's bubblegum to me.
It's amazing.
Oh my god. Okay, to be fair, the moment that I really like something and you do not have the same energy as me, I will have the same reaction. So this is fine. I accept this reaction from you.
Wait, when has that ever happened?
No, I'm saying at some point we will come.
Just because I don't think Tim Stoker's that great?
No, what are you talking about? What? I'm saying at some point in this podcast we are going to have very different opinions on something, about something that I really like and you don't really like. And
I hope it comes soon. I hope
it doesn't come soon, actually. Are we talking about who to recommend it to?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I recommend this to everybody, especially if you're in the mood for horror and don't like too many visually terrifying things or jump scares, because there's only one jump scare in the whole show. And it's super easy to binge on a weekend, and it's fun to watch by yourself, and it's fun to watch with people.
Yeah, I also would recommend it to the entire world, because it's my favorite show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially...
I just can't stop
especially
laughing.
people who are not that into horror. I think this is a really good introduction because it's really big-brained horror, and you're gonna feel like, wow, this is fucking nice. Maybe I'll stay here longer.
It's definitely. I mean, I feel like it's a very good intro to horror. Do you have a closing?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about Hill House and how it's amazing, and make a closing.
Gothic horror is making a comeback, but I feel like a lot of media doesn't know what Gothic horror really is, and they're just assuming something based off of the single book that they read in high school or Gothic architecture. But Gothic horror concerns itself more with like emotions and the creation of a creepy ambiance with cool symbolism and ghosts and things like that. And don't use the term so lightly. If you want a really cool introduction to Gothic horror that isn't a book like Frankenstein or Dracula, Hill House is your key. Watch it, consume it.
Gothic
love
horror.
it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to use Gothic horror every time you want to sound specific when you're talking about horror, because there are a lot of horror terms out there to be using. It's not just Gothic horror.
It's also one of the reasons people are disappointed with Blind Manor, because they don't know what Gothic horror and Gothic romance is. So maybe educate yourself on genres before you start saying shit. Wow, that's...
maybe tone it down a bit. I'm just gonna make a collection of clips from this, just like blooper reel, because oh my god, Rhea.
I'm very passionate about this subject, so maybe you should have a line as a closing statement.
Maybe I should have a line?
In the closing statement.
Thank you for listening to this episode. You can watch The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. I'm Elia.
And I'm Andrea.
And as Andrea said in our first episode, see y'all next time.
Toodles.
Ew, no! Stop adding creepy shit to the end of our episode.